Hey, how's it going, guys? Stonewall Raised by Sharks here. Today we're going to be bringing you our top 10 tips for beginners. So I've been playing the Monster Hunter series for a very long time. And a lot of people think it's kind of hard to enter this series, so I'm just going to put this video together to help some people get off to the right start. So our first tip is going to be find a weapon that you are comfortable with, and in the beginning kind of just stick with it, because all the weapons have a learning curve to it, and they all behave very differently. It's like almost an entirely different game playing with a different weapon. For instance, there's the Greatsword, which is my personal favorite, where it's a slow, heavy hitter but deals a lot of damage when it does hit. Then you have Sword and Shield, which is the exact opposite, where it's very quick, very nimble. You gotta be on your toes at all times. It's got a little shield. Then you have weapons like Hunting Horn, where it's about dealing damage to the enemy's head, supporting your teammates, all that kind of good stuff. And then you have the ranged weapons, like bow, heavy bow gun, and light bow gun. All behave very differently, even though they're all ranged weapons and guns. And then you have Insect Glaive, which is one of the newer weapons to the series. Great for aerial attacking and giving yourself little buffs with your Kinsect, which you upgrade separately. It's a very cool weapon. So basically, just pick a weapon that you find yourself comfortable with, mess around with it a lot at the beginning, and just stick with it. Learn the ins and outs of it, upgrade through all the branches, that way you don't leave yourself out of options and hitting a wall where you have to go back and regrind just to be able to upgrade a weapon. Okay, so for our second tip, one of the most important things in the game is gathering materials. And one of the most important materials in the game is ores, especially that one right there, iron ore. Ores are used for upgrading weapons and armor. You'll use it for many things throughout the course of the game, and you can't stress their importance enough. When you're walking through spots like this on a regular hunt, you're going to want to stop by and just hit circle a couple times, pick them up, so that way later on, when you're looking to upgrade a weapon or armor to continue on with the game, you won't have to stop and grind for an hour just to pick up iron ores and earth crystals. They're very important. Here comes tip number 3. It's a big one, and it's not anything to do with a monster. It's this little guy right here, honey. Honey can be used to craft catalysts, which you use later on to make demon drugs and armor skins. Great for giving you attack and defense buffs for later on in the game for big quests, and it's a huge difference maker. I cannot stress how big of a difference maker it is. It is literally the difference between surviving a hit or being killed. Killing the monster in the allotted time or not. Honey is also used for making mega potions. You combine it with regular potions, and you get a huge health buff, and it's just a lifesaver. On to tip number 4. Monsters like Aptonoth, along with the prey monsters and boss monsters in this game, can give you an item called a small monster bone, medium monster bone, or large monster bone. These bones are used in crafting. You'll use it to create weapons, armor, upgrade those weapons and armor, and you could sell the excess for some pretty decent cash. Well, since I mentioned selling items for money, that's going to lead us into tip number 5. Whether you're a gunner or a blade master, at every quest you're going to want to take the ammo that they give you as supply materials, and even these empty files if you have the space, because when you go back to Astera, the hub town in the game, you can sell those for extra money that you use for buying potions, traps, other materials that you might need, upgrading, creating weapons and armor. You need money for virtually everything in the game, and early on you tend to run out a little bit. So if you take the extra ammo if you're a gunner, or all the ammo if you're a blade master, and sell it, it makes things a little bit easier early on. So now that you know how to manage your money, on to tip number 5. Tip number 5 is to hoard everything. Whether you carve an Aptonoth, kill a boss and you get his scale, come across a random flower, I heavily suggest picking up everything you see, especially early on, and keeping it. because a lot of times later on in the game you might be upgrading a weapon and it will require something extremely stupid, and you might have to go back and figure out where it even is because it's so just mundane that you don't remember it. Or if you have an excess of it, you could sell it for some more money. You might need it to craft into ammo if you're a gunner. Hoarding everything, especially early on in the game, is extremely important. Well, there's tip number 7. Tips number 7, 8, 9, and 10 all pretty much go hand in hand. When you get messed up and you get killed over and over and over by the same monster again, don't necessarily be discouraged. You might not be bad. You might just be a little underpowered for that boss. You might need to go and grind a couple levels, mine some ore, upgrade your sword, upgrade your armor, review your item stock. Maybe you're not bringing enough potions. Maybe you're not bringing the necessary traps. Just don't get discouraged. Keep trying again. The game has a very high learning curve. You might get stuck at a boss. Don't just completely give up. That was also my tip number 8 was, if you get stuck, sometimes maybe you just need to go upgrade your armor. And my tip number 9 is if you get stuck on a wall, like for instance you get to the flagship monster of Arekkz, and he just keeps pummeling you. Maybe just try a different weapon. For instance, I'm fighting him with a longsword right now. I've been a greatsword main since the early 2000s when the first Monster Hunter came out. I don't use longsword often, but I was like, you know what, try it. Took it into the fight with Arekkz, and while I'm getting my ass kicked here, in general, I'm not hating the fight as much because I'm not fighting Arekkz with my greatsword and losing for the 15th time in a row. It shakes it up. Sometimes different weapons are good for different monsters. Like for instance, earlier I was hunting Arekkz with a hammer. Hammer I have some good experience with. I've used it a lot in the past, unlike longsword, and I ended up beating him with the hammer when I couldn't beat him with the longsword, even though it was my main weapon for years. Plus, sometimes it just breaks up the monotony, Changing up weapons completely changes the way the game works, like I said earlier. Another thing that definitely helps is if you're playing offline or you're not playing with friends, make some friends. Play online. Join a community. Go on Reddit. Get some information there. Meet some new people there. People on the Monster Hunter Discord are pretty friendly too. You can go on there. You can follow us on YouTube. Subscribe to us. Maybe shoot us a message. We're always willing to help newcomers. I really want to see Monster Hunter do well in America for once. And if people are getting discouraged, I don't want to see that because that's not good. If you have any questions, feel free to message us, comment on the video. We're more than willing to help you out, as long as you're not sitting there and just trying to have us, complete quests for you and mooch. If you're really willing to learn, pretty much the community as a whole is very good with that, when they're willing to help you. Plus, playing online in 4-player multiplayer is not only easier, but it's just ridiculously more fun. It is what the game is meant to be played as. Well, that's pretty much it for our top 10 tips for beginners, guys. I mean, I'm sure we've missed plenty of very easy tips that would help people out in the beginning, but this is just what came to mind. And, we'll probably come out with another top 10 tips video pretty soon, so just throw any ideas you have into the comments, and maybe we'll include it into our next video. That's all for now, guys.